everyone, and welcome to the final travel episode of Small Talk. I'm Amy, this is my wife Maggie.
Hello.
And today we want to have a quick recap of our GenCon experience and being here in the States.
Yeah.
And as you can see, we are still in our hotel room because when we got back to LA, our flight back to Australia, as we landed, we got the text message.
Get the phone of airplane mode, and the first text message that comes through is, your flight has been cancelled.
Your flight's been cancelled back to Australia.
What? So hopefully this is the last travel blog,
hopefully.
But who knows? We might just live here now.
But all was not lost because our flight was rebooked for a day later, which means we just got an extra day in LA to enjoy the sunshine before we go back to cold Melbourne winter. So it's, and we got to eat a lot of LA food.
Yes.
We went and had chicken and waffles at Roscoe's.
So good.
Might as well if you've got a bonus day.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's talk about GenCon. So as everyone knows, we had a big shopping list of things that we wanted to go and grab from GenCon. But when we got in, we actually had a day spare. So just the way that the flights worked coming from Mexico, we wanted to make sure we got there with enough time and so that we could pick up our badges and not be too rushed.
That was the best, actually, having that little extra bit of time, because then we got to like acclimate and then get all the badges and all of all the checks and balances done early.
Yes,
before
because
the really long lines.
We did have to wait in line to get our vaccination, but it was so short and so quick. And the next day it was actually, and later that night, it was a huge line and people were waiting up to 90 minutes because you had to do that before you could get your badge.
Yeah.
So it was quite an interesting time though, because we got in on Wednesday morning and the first thing we see is like the giant rainbow
that was
Ravensburg.
So cool. Yeah, there's like, what do you call that? It's kind of like a photo op welcome area, but it was massive. There's sort of this beautiful rainbow spot. Hashtag, what was their hashtag? Welcome at the table.
Welcome at the table.
Yeah, which is so cool. So yeah, we took that was a snapshot that we saw, because you posted that on Twitter. Yeah, not on Twitter, sorry, on Instagram. Yeah, so we had the photo there. And then also, like, I really appreciated how much effort was put into the welcoming of, like, sort of making it LGBTQI plus friendly. And even at the doors, they had the signs of, be respectful. Oh, there's a little fly in here. Be respectful, be inclusive. All of these things, like any sort of disrespect won't be tolerated. And then also the pronouns. So like little pronoun stickers to put on your badges. And they were highly encouraged to select, your preferred pronoun. So I really appreciated that. It kind of made me feel like immediately way more welcome as well.
I agree, yeah. As soon as we got there, you felt very welcomed.
Yeah.
And it was a really nice and diverse con. I really enjoyed that aspect too. Speaking of, so the first day, there was not a lot going on. And so we were just milling around and talking to people when we bumped into them. But we were able to go and see the BIPOC Lounge, which was the first time that anything like this has been done at GenCon and is, I don't think, anywhere else at other cons either. But it was actually hosted by Rose Gauntlet. So Isaac and Lindsay were, I believe, getting donations from publishers in the form of games to create this library, but also kind of crowdfunding some funds as well to put this together in collaboration with GenCon to create this really safe space. And so they were super welcoming to us when we got there, and we just helped punch some games and set up the space.
I really love that. Like, I've
really
never
fun.
heard of like the punching
Punch party. Yeah.
That is the best. Like, I actually really enjoy that part of it. I know some people are like, oh, let's just get to the game. It's like, I really enjoy that. Even games that I already know, it's like, this is so satisfying, and like arranging things. So yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. So we got to see the space as it came together, which was a really nice, casual place to hang out throughout the con. So we really appreciated that space. And a quiet space as well, because they had a cup of tea. So sometimes I'd just come in for a cup of tea and chill with some friends, and that was really lovely. But let's get talking about GenCon. So on Thursday, that's when everything kicks off, and that's when the exhibition hall opens, which is the main reason why people are there, to snatch some of these hot games. And we came very prepared. We had our top 21 list that we did on YouTube, of course. And so I had mapped out on the exhibition hall map where each of those booths were. and kind of had a rough idea of the things that I thought might sell out first. And so we were waiting, of course, for the doors to open. And as soon as they did, we kind of went
everyone
in.
was very organized.
It was.
Though,
I was expecting a stampede, but in
Yeah,
fact, it was quite orderly.
People were, with deliberate intent.
Yes, they knew where they were going.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody knew where they were going. But once we got through the doors, it dispersed pretty quickly.
It was never out of control, and you never felt I never felt unsafe at any point. Yeah.
And a few people and friends had noticed that we had our organized map and leveraged the fact that we knew where we wanted to go.
Exactly. Why?
So that was awesome. But I did manage to pick up a few games. Actually, the biggest surprise to me is when we got through, into the halls, I was actually making a beeline so I left Maggie to go and grab a copy of Terracotta Army. So Maggie got in line there, which was already quite a line, and I said, I'm just going to go straight to Bezier Games and head in that direction. And as I was walking that way, because of course they had Cat in the Box and everyone was very excited about that, as we were headed that way, I walked past a booth and I just clocked a copy of Twilight Inscription. And I had heard a lot about Twilight Inscription, but I wasn't expecting it to be a GenCon release. I did not think there would be copies, and we said that in our top. I just wanted to check it out, and I saw that they were for sale. So of course I stopped in my tracks and
diverted,
kind of announced to everybody around me that was exciting, and so we stopped there and purchased a copy of that. So I was really happy to get that, because then I found out they only had a small number each day that they were releasing. So very lucky to get that. And then, of course, we went and kind of ticked off through our list, and we went to all of the things that we wanted to check out. We didn't buy all of them, but we certainly bought a lot of games, and we will do unveiling or GenCon haul video when we get home.
Everything is packed right now, and everything is packed so... what do you call it?
Delicately?
Well, delicate, but also because we have to have the exact right balance of games across the luggage so that we don't go overweight and we don't get charged. So I can't, we would do it here, but
we are not unpacking everything.
No way.
It's a very delicate balance. So we've got, we purchased almost 40 games. Of course, there were a couple of review copies in there, but there was also some prototypes that we picked up, which we can't unveil. But the games that we can unveil, we'll talk about in a separate video when we land and get home. But what else? So after the exhibition hall, and that was super tiring because I feel like we walked around for 4 or 5 hours.
It's quite big.
It's so large, but of course you bump into people that you know, so you're chatting and you're all excited, and it's a lot of energy.
You might hear it a little bit, but I'm losing my voice. My voice has sort of gotten tired, and so it's still a little bit raspy.
Yeah, and
it's like Phoebe, with Smelly Cat. So I get that husky voice.
But later that day, what was really nice as well is that we had been contacted by some content creators, Ruel and the brothers Murph, to ask if we wanted to come along to a baseball game, a ball game, if you will. And the stadium there is actually just across from the GenCon hall. And apparently it's the... I don't know what it's called. It's not like the top tier baseball, but it's more like a local baseball. And it was such a nice reprieve from a whole day of being in air conditioning in the expo hall, wandering around, and we dumped all of our stuff back at our hotel, and we got down to the ball game. And I've never been to kind of a local sports event in America.
Yeah.
I've been to some of the bigger matches because that's what you do as a tourist. But these local ones are so nice, so relaxed. There's people sitting out on the grass. It was a beautiful, sunny, humid day.
Yeah.
We had basically the whole section where our seating was
empty
to ourselves.
Yeah, it's middle of the week, sort of lower.
Some more friends joined us. So we had T, we had Dave and Ilka Luza join us. And we also, that day, were able to meet Michelle from Second Star to the Left, a great board gaming channel. If you haven't checked it out, go and check that out now. But yeah, that was fantastic to meet her, and she came along to the baseball with her husband as well. So it was just a lovely event, and we also learnt a lot about baseball and the way that people record the stats. So you've got the scoreboard.
Yeah, it's but wait, so why are you recording it on a sheet of paper?
What's
you
the
have
sheet
it there.
of paper?
Yeah, you have it on the big digital board.
Yeah.
But obviously,
It's like a game within a game.
Well, yeah, and I think it makes sense because, well, one, you're recording more details than what the scoreboard shows, but also it keeps you engaged. It gives you something to do as well. And you're like, oh, you can...
And, I learned a lot about our friend Jazz from the Lobby of Hobbies, that he is very much into baseball and very much into this keeping score as well. And so he was trying to take us through what each of the different lines meant. But it was really interesting because it's like we were calling it a bat and right, because that's what they were doing. And they're like, oh, it's just a casual game of baseball, but everyone was very intently filling out this sheet thing, and then at the end of the match they just throw them away.
Most of them, it's like, we're like, what do you do with it? It's like, well, you can take it home, and they just kind of collect them, but a lot of people just sort of
throw them out.
It's more like a during thing,
an exercise and being very present in the game. So that was a wonderful experience on the Thursday night. And then Friday we just kind of did it all over again. We were in the halls, we were chatting to people, and we also had signed up for a couple of GenCon events. So if you don't know much about GenCon, there's this huge exhibition hall. It's not really a player's kind of, you're not really playing a lot of games, but you get to demo a lot of games. And then there's all these events that go on around in all of the surrounding rooms. And there's actually an area that is dedicated to painting miniatures.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and so we did 2 classes in this area, and they were like 2 hours.
2 hours each.
Yeah, but we signed up, and we were very ambitious, because the first one that I signed up for was freehand painting. I don't know what I was thinking, but I just wanted to experience this advanced version of miniature painting where they actually, freehand will illustrate something onto the miniatures.
Yeah, if you've got an area of the miniature that's quite plain, so for example, it might be either the back of a long cape or a shield that has a plain flat surface. And it's like, well, if you want to make it a little bit fancier, then it's like, oh yeah, do a freehand. So that's what they were teaching. Yeah, and we had there was a skull design, and so you're kind of painting with the different, just using the what is it, like the shadows and the midtones, and playing with that as the shapes, and then obviously the skull kind of comes alive. It was interesting. I liked at the end, someone looked at mine as I turned it around, one of the other participants, and was like, oh, I like how you're not going for realism. I love how it looks more abstract. Yeah. Like, okay, I'll take that. I felt like, because you're doing it like it's within a mini, so you're also doing it in a very, very small scale. It makes it extra difficult, I feel. So not only are you learning free paint, but you're like learning free paint on a mini in a teeny tiny scale.
Yeah, freehand.
Freehand, sorry. And so I think I actually quite like mine, because it was more impressionistic.
I think you did a great job.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, we both.
It was not what I was going for. Like, I was actually trying to mimic the thing. So it's like, it's not at all what I was intending. But it's like, hey, it feels like Van Gogh-esque.
It was fun actually, because it was more like paint by numbers, because they had a very structured. Okay, then add this color, and then add this color, and here's the structure. So could I freehand anything other than that skull following the instructions? Probably not.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. But it was a really fun experience, and it was nice to just sit down and do something different and be like in the craziness of GenCon. It was nice to just have that moment to sit down. It's a nice
little break, because you're like, there's so much stimuli, like, because you're either in the exhibit hall or you're in the main, like, where they have the gaming and the demos, and so there's just so much sound and noise, or you're talking and interacting, and so to then have this little break where you're just like very mindfully painting and kind of like, it's pretty quiet. It's like, it was quite nice.
Yeah. And we did a second one later that weekend, which was non-metallic metal. And so if you're familiar with miniature painting, there are 2 ways really that you can get a metallic effect if you're painting armor or the like. And one way is to use a metallic paint, and metallic paints are very easy, but they have a very flat appearance, so all of it looks kind of the same shade or the same gleam to it. Whereas another way to paint it is non-metallic metal, where you don't use metallic paints, but you use layered shades of paint and then finish it with highlights to make it look like a reflective metal surface. And this is something that I've always struggled with. It's just beyond my skills as a painter to do it. And so really wanted to do a course in that. This was about gold armor. And basically we spent 2 hours painting a single kneecap piece of armor. But it was really interesting and really fun to learn how you layer the colors to build up and give that sense of depth to what then appears to be gold, but actually it's just different shades of brown and yellow. So that was really interesting.
Mine never appeared to be gold. Mine looked like someone picked a hot crust bun. So I don't know if you're familiar with hot crust buns. They're like this little, during Easter, it's like a little brown bun with a white cross on it. That's what it looked like. Like this knight decided, I'm going to use this as my knee protection.
No, I think you did a very
Either
good job.
that or like worn leather, but not anything shiny. Yours looked way more
I think we need to practice them
a lot.
But I've always wanted to paint anachrony in this kind of style, so I'll just keep practicing until I feel confident enough to get that done,
and then just find 900 spare hours.
Yeah, that's right. So that was really fun as well. Another little break from the con. But other than that, we were just walking around in the exhibition hall. We had a few meetings with publishers, of course, to see some upcoming games, which was really interesting.
Learn what's coming up.
Yeah, learn what's coming up. But before we talk about games, I might just talk about some people that we got to meet. And I'm just going to check my list because I don't want to forget anyone. Maybe you can start, Maggie, because you have a better memory.
We will. Okay, so I'll say first the disclaimer. We'll definitely forget some people just because it was just there were so many people that we got to meet.
Yeah, but you know who we got to go shopping with? We immediately bumped into the boys from Table Knots.
Yeah,
so Max and Doolin, we had such a fun time shopping with you. We went into the consignment store. I haven't even spoken about the consignment store. So part of Gen Con as well is people can bring their games and put them in the consignment store and sell their used games. Sometimes they're still new and in shrink as well. And then there's an auction that goes along with that. Last time we went to Gen Con in 2016, I didn't get an opportunity to check that out. This time I went in there and I was Maggie didn't join. She was like, oh no, I'm going to take this time to go back to the hotel. I went into the consignment room.
Stuff and then come back.
I was so overwhelmed with choice. It's just so many games that I ended up buying nothing, and I just wandered around.
I was very surprised when
I was
when you
also
came out.
surprised.
I'm like, so you got nothing?
Yeah.
It's like, what?
So I wandered around and I spent a long time in there, but didn't buy anything. But anyway, it was super fun to shop with those boys and to meet them in person was really lovely.
I always joke that Max is the real themer because
his name is Max Themer.
Yeah, like his actual surname is Themer. I'm like, I'm the fake Themer. I'm Themer in spirit.
Themer in spirit. Of course, we got to meet Jazz, as we mentioned. We met Mandy and Suzanne.
Yes.
From the Dice from X, kind of Dice Tower podcast.
Yes, yeah.
And we have gotten to know them both because we've been such huge fangirls of the podcast.
Yes.
We used to listen to it all the time when we were driving anywhere. And now we've had a chance to get to know them. And this was the first time meeting them in person.
Yeah, we got to know them online, but now seeing them in person is just so strange when you have the voice that is so familiar to you.
And you're trying to reconcile it with the person.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So that was very
that
cool.
was really exciting. And then we met a lot of designers of games as well.
Yeah.
So we got to meet Luke Laurie, who is the designer of Dwellings of Eldervale and other things, but who's currently working on Andromeda's Edge.
Yeah.
And so we got to meet with him and with Peter Vaughan, who are creating this game together, which is the spiritual sequel of Dwellings of Eldervale. And we'll, of course, be talking about this game more as it starts to come onto crowdfunding. But yeah, it was great to see it on the table, to check it out, to see how some of the miniatures clipped together with different other components. That was really cool. So we really enjoyed Dwellings. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that brings. Space. So TBC on the theme, but excited to see how the game plays.
I got to meet Ryan Lockett from the Sleeping Gods and all of those, above and below, near and far. So that was pretty cool because that's I feel like that's my my new space of getting, not space as in outer
As in
frontier,
outer
but
space.
the area that I'm really getting.
The new
heavily-
frontier of
my
gaming.
new frontier, yeah. I'm
Narrative.
really enjoying this. So it was really cool to, get to meet Ryan.
It was really nice to meet Ryan.
Yeah.
And we also got to meet Cole Worley, which is
Yes.
probably one of my biggest fangirl moments.
Yes.
I really appreciate Cole's game designs, of course, Root and Oath.
I really
and
appreciate like all the meta thinking that goes into like it's not just like, well, what's the theme, what's the mechanics? It's just like all these other layers.
There's so many
of,
layers.
almost like gaming philosophy and even like human interaction philosophy. And I love that stuff. Like I can talk about that forever.
And the
ever.
depth of thinking that goes into the theme in particular,
Yeah.
and the setting of, the historical setting,
Yeah.
and just how everything comes together, the components and the everything is so thoughtful.
The amount of information that is informing when, what might seem sometimes on the surface be like, oh yeah, this is kind of like a cool, cool little game, and then you're doing this, and then, well, not a little game, I can't think of a little game, but it's a cool game. It's like, there's so much thinking. And, stuff
and I
like
always thought he was really intelligent when, you watch videos when he's streaming and things, but also he is such a nice person.
He's so lovely.
So lovely,
Yes.
so friendly, and we actually got to see him a couple of times. We had a chat to him at the Leader Games booth, but then also we got to go to a Worley gig event, which was to unveil John Company. And so if you're not familiar with that, that is the game that is about to be delivered, that was on Kickstarter, the next big upcoming game from their company. And it is about families of the...
Through the East India Company.
Thank you, the East India Company.
Yeah, sort of aristocrats.
Yes.
I don't know if that's the right term, aristocrats around that time. And so there's a lot of kind of like political and social commentary
And there's
layers to
negotiation
it.
in this game.
Yeah.
I think it looks like, obviously, we backed this game, and so looking forward to receiving it soon and then getting stuck into it and eventually doing a review, but it looks like quite a meaty experience.
Yes.
But it was great to see the final production copy. We didn't get a chance to play it, but we did get a chance to look at it, which was fun and exciting.
With Candace. Candace was there as well.
Yeah, Candace
from
Harris from BGG,
yes.
Who is just a wonderful
And we
friend
got to
of
play
ours.
games with Candace as well, which was so awesome. It was just such a fun time. Yeah.
We also got to meet the designer of Parks as well as
Yes.
other games, Henry.
Oh, so lovely.
So such a kind, lovely
so many
person.
really lovely designers.
Yeah,
It looks
really
nice. It's
lovely.
Like, makes you feel like extra good playing the games because like,
That's right.
oh, this was also designed by like an amazing human.
Yeah, so we got to pick up the new Parks expansion, which we're looking forward to trying. But Henry was also talking to us about another game that some of you might have heard of called Flow.
Yeah.
That's upcoming, and that has beautiful art. I've seen the art already kind of teased around the place. So
it wasn't a Gen Con, so we don't
no.
have any information about that one.
But it was really lovely to meet him as well.
And we until signed our copy.
I know
of,
you signed our copy.
expansion
Oh,
of Parks.
so nice.
So cool.
And we met Tim Fowler as well,
Yeah.
who is another designer that we really, really like. And he is so...
Again,
all these people are just so lovely.
Yeah.
But I guess you don't really get an opportunity to see what the designer of games are like because they're so behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And so you just get to experience what they like, who they are through their game designs, but actually putting a face to the name and getting to chat to them was a really wonderful experience. And I think more of that at Gen Con than at any other con we've ever been to, just getting to meet the designers. So we had a chat to Tim about some of his games that we really enjoy, but also upcoming games as well. And we got to meet a lot of other content creators, Instagrammers like Queer Tabletops, Board Gamer Girl. We got to meet Professor Meg for the first time.
Yeah.
Just like a lot of love in the halls.
So good. Yeah.
I feel like Gen Con is one of those cons where it goes for 4 days, but it's over like that.
Yeah, it's both. You're doing so much,
so
and
you're
at the
exhausted.
same time, yes, you're tired, but at the same time, there's so many things that you don't really get a chance to do because there's just so much on.
Yeah.
And it's like you're doing so much and you're so tired, but at the same time, it's like, oh, but I don't want this to end. And at the same time, it's going really quickly, and it's just a very. It's an interesting time warp or energy warp.
It really is
space to be in.
And I feel like you walk past someone, you're like, "Oh, hi, it's nice to see you. I'll see you again later," and then you never see them again.
Yeah, you get
just
lost in the
absolutely never see them
crowds.
again. And one funny example of that was I was one person I definitely wanted to catch up with was Alex from Board Game Co., who has always been very supportive of us, but we have a great friendship and always loved chatting to him behind the scenes. And I knew he was going to be there, and I just thought, we'll bump into each other.
Yeah,
and
surely it'll happen.
And we got to day 3, and we had not bumped into each other. I knew he was there, and I kept sending messages like, where have you disappeared to?
You need to make this happen, otherwise it just won't happen.
And so he messaged me, he's like, where are you right now? And so he came to see us. He bumped into Maggie along the way, and we all got a chance to catch up.
I'd lost Amy. I was like, I'm not sure where Amy is. And then I was like, oh,
You found Alex.
I found Alex. And Alex was like, I know where Amy is.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, great.
And so we all we got 10 minutes to stand there and chat. But it was just so wonderful to see him again. And one thing that I didn't expect was that we were walking the halls, and I turned a corner and someone said our names, and we turned around, and it was Dwayne and Alicia from Blackboard Gaming.
And
that was on the last day. And they said they were not coming, but then they decided last minute to drive in for the last day. And so it was such a lovely surprise to see them. We love them both very much. And who else did we see? There's so many people. Well, of course, it would be remiss of us not to talk about Monique and Naveen, who are also great friends of ours. And of course, we knew they were going to be there, and we got to see them quite a few times throughout the show. We went out for dinner together, which was lovely to catch up. We also got a chance to play some games together with Ruel as well. And then we had our flight home together.
We didn't realize we were on the same
plan
flight.
for that. And what's great about GenCon is that Indianapolis, of course, it's a big celebrated event because it brings so much tourist money to the town. And so everyone knows that GenCon's coming. You get to the airport and it's like, welcome to GenCon, which is kind of strange. But as you're leaving GenCon, they've set up gaming tables at the airport where you can play until your flight. And so that was surprising. And we did. We played right up to the last moment. We got to teach Monique and Naveen the game Planted by Phil Walker Harding while Suzanne was there watching. And so it's just like this surreal experience of sitting in the middle of an airport getting to play with these people that you love.
It's very cool.
And so we flew home together. And speaking of gaming, we should probably talk about some games.
Okay.
But as mentioned, we didn't get a huge opportunity to play a lot because it's just you're just on your feet and you're moving constantly between events, between things that are happening. We did get to play a few games. We got to play for a couple of hours with some of the Joey fam. If you're watching, I'm so sorry. I wish we'd had more time. But literally, that was probably the most time we had sitting down compared to anything else that we did.
The rest of the time, we were just rushing around.
It was so manic. But we did get to play San Francisco, which is Reina Knizia. We played kites quite a few times because that was... I am loving kites. We'll talk about
co-op.
That more.
Again, co-op, who knew?
But with sand-timers.
There seems to be a common thread here with co-ops. They've got sand-timers real time.
Yeah, then we're in because that's enough stress for us.
A lot of stress and tension.
So we'll talk about these games, of course,
in
more
detail
later. We played Cat in the Box, which
we did.
Was a very hot game of the con. In fact, that's probably the game that everybody went home with. It's a trick-taking game where the cards have no suits. But we'll talk about that in an upcoming episode as well.
Very cool.
We got to play Dulce, which is Dulce, Dolce, depending on what language.
Dulce. The designer the name sounds Hispanic. So Dulce. Sweets.
So we got to have a game of that as well. We checked out Maple Valley.
Yes, we got an earlier kind of demo. We played still all prototype.
Very
so
early
not final
prototype.
art. There's it's all a bit,
but we got to play a couple of rounds of that.
I think, spoiler alert, again, only did a demo. I think I'm going to like this even more than Creature Comforts.
Ooh, so it's in the same world. It's very cute.
The same world. Yeah, it's a continuation of kind of Creature Comforts. Creature Comforts is about decking out your place for a comfy winter indoors in your house, and then this is as winter finishes and we're going into spring, you're helping prepare for the spring festival. So it's I like that.
Mechanically, I love how you're just like, I'm just waiting to talk about the mechanics and you're like all about
but what's happening?
But it's autumn.
It's spring.
Is it spring?
Yeah.
Is it spring?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it took place in fall.
No, why would you go from winter to fall?
I don't know. I get really confused by seasons between America and Australia.
I've never been able to, like, I'm a bit embarrassed about this, but I've never been able to, like, really understand the season
sequence. But it's called Maple Valley and there's maple leaves.
Hey, that's true. It is called Maple Valley and there are maple.
Anyway, theme aside, it's not dice worker placement anymore. It's more of a hand management game. Yeah. So you're using the cards in your hand to move around the board to collect resources to purchase other things. So that looks really interesting. Looking forward to checking that out more when more information comes out about it. We did get an opportunity to go to the event for Twilight Inscription.
Oh yeah,
so it was a ticketed event and it was actually hosted by the designer James, which he did an amazing job of the teach. And it was like we joked that it was like a PowerPoint presentation.
Well, yeah, it was
because it
without
was like
PowerPoint, but it's like
blown
printed,
up versions of the player boards.
On boards, on big massive cardboards. And
yeah,
like,
where you got to point out what was happening.
It was like a analog PowerPoint presentation. Because it's like, here's the first slide, and then you remove the slide. Go, this is the next slide. Yeah, it was actually really helpful.
It was really helpful, and we'll talk more about this game as we get to play it more. But it was really interesting, and a great way to learn it was just to spend 2 hours kind of stepping through like part of a game to get a feel for the sense of the game flow. And what else did we play? I think like that was mostly what we played. We played some older games with some friends, but mostly those were the newer games that we got an opportunity to play. And then we that was it. By the time we knew it, the show was over. And how do I feel about GenCon? I think it's an interesting. Well, it's very different to everything else we've been to this year. So we didn't expect to get back to GenCon. In case you didn't know this already, our wedding was cancelled in 2020, of course, due to the pandemic. Our wedding was meant to be in the US, and as part of that, we were going to go to GenCon 2020. So we had these rolled over tickets that we didn't think we were going to get the opportunity to use, but an opportunity came up to come over here to align it with a trip that I was making already. And so we did get the opportunity to go, but we'd already been earlier this year to the US to go to Dice Tower West and to Gamma. Now, Dice Tower West is more of a playing convention. There's not a lot of exhibition space. It's more like
not a lot of stalls.
There's not a lot of publishers. There's a few that you can go and talk to, but really it's not about buying games. It's more about playing games, and they have an incredible library of 7,000 games, and so it's really focused on bumping into people that you know, or even that you don't know,
new people,
and just
playing.
teaching and playing games. And so it's super different experience, like quite polarized to GenCon. We went to Gamma, which is an industry-only event, and so it's mostly focused on an exhibition hall where the publishers are trying to sell their games to retailers, and we were there as media, and so that was a different mix as well, because we were mostly dealing with industry, so talking to publishers as well as other content creators, so that was very different again. GenCon, all about the shopping really, all about the events, games, all about like it's loud, and it's there's lots a sensory overload. There's things to see, like that area where they were setting up the cards.
They had this area where they were making like House of Cards, or like card-based structures. And it was really cool where it started out, very small, and by the end of it, it's just like, it's so massive and impressive. They also had this.
Well, they do it every year. And then they use it as a way of raising money. They have an auction for the ability to throw the first coin at the structure to bring the House of Cards tumbling down. So
they look pretty sturdy though, because they were being built over time.
I don't know. Every time I walk past, I'm like, I'm going to be that person that trips and falls and hits one of them, and then they all fall. I wonder if that's ever happened at a Gen Con. If you know if that's ever happened, please let us know. That would be a disaster. And then the balloons, is that what you were going to talk about?
So the dragon is the kind of the mascot of Gen Con, and so you actually had like the dragon mascot driving around and saying hello, but then they make this massive balloon-based dragon, which was again very, very impressive. I also love all the cosplay as well. Like there was just like people getting into, and I'm very bad with anime characters or that. So I have over the top of my head like most of what people were dressed at. But it's so cool to see it. It's like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was really awesome.
Yeah.
And we did, that reminded me as well when you said about the Dragon, they have a merch store, and that was so busy all the time. The longest line, I think one of the t-shirts they sold out on day one, but we were lucky because on the day that we got in there a day early, was it the day early, and it was open, and we lined up, and we got an opportunity to get our merch early as well, which was good. And I just bought a t-shirt, and Maggie got the tumbler. And
I'm so looking for. I had talked myself out. I'm like, I don't need a tumbler. It's because it's metal. I'm like, it's going to be heavy. We probably need, we don't want that extra weight in the luggage. And then Amy's like, well, I guess you could drink drink from it when you're playing a solo game. I'm like, yeah, sold, done.
Sold, done. Yeah, it took a lot of convincing.
Yeah. But just for the record, I had very responsibly talked myself out of it.
You had.
And then you enabled me.
It was great while we were waiting in line, and it was a long line. Right behind us was Tom and Mike from...
Like Tom Vassell from the Dice Tower.
From the Dice Tower.
Yeah. And so we just kept doing the whole hello, and then hello.
Yeah, but it was so nice to see them as well, as well as Chris and Wendy and all of the Dice Tower crew. It was really lovely to just be able to catch up with everyone, and everyone was super nice. I will say, actually, that a few very meaningful moments for us at the con. There were a lot of people who stopped us, and in particular Maggie, to acknowledge and thank her for the Viticulture World video, or to talk to us about the fact that a game was being designed, and now there was some more cultural consulting going on because of the video. So that was super meaningful. So if you're one of those people, whether you're a viewer or a publisher who stopped, I have to say that to me really stands out.
Same. As, oh my gosh, I'm going to get choked up just now.
It was so thoughtful. We also
really
had,
awesome.
we had a couple of viewers stop us as well and talk to us about queer representation and the importance of that in the hobby and our role in that. So that, again, those are the moments that you almost well up, and all of the hard work that you put into content creation becomes suddenly worth it in those moments especially. So thank you to everyone who stopped us, or if you stopped us just to say hi and take a photo with us. That is also super really exciting for us all the time, and we love to be able to meet you. We are going to try to get to some more cons next year. We would love to get to some of the European cons, get over there, because this year's been very US centric, but we hope to get over to Europe next year and to meet more of you and to just enjoy this hobby. It's such a fantastic thing. Cons is such a nice way that the community comes together to appreciate everything that we love.
If we didn't get a chance to play with you, obviously it's just so chaotic and there's just so much going on.
Gen Con in particular is very hard.
Yes, but it's we would, please don't give up on it. Next time, keep kind of reaching out. Because
I definitely think this was not the con to sit down and get a chance to play lots of games.
I genuinely didn't know what to expect. So I had no idea, because we had been once before, but that was back in 2016 before content creation, and I had forgotten. And that had been our first con, so we ourselves didn't quite know. And so we were being pulled in a lot of directions.
But we're very, very happy about all the interactions that we did get to have, and all the people that we got to meet, even if briefly. So we will, when we land back in Australia, we will unbox all of our packed games and talk through them to let you know what we did and didn't get from our list, and some extras along the way. But thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you when we get back to Australia. Have a wonderful week ahead. Apologies for being so off schedule. We will be getting back onto schedule as well with our Monday videos. But have a lovely weekend, and we'll see you back in the future. Back to the future.
Back when we're in the future.
Back to the future.
We're going back to the future. That's exactly what we're doing right now.
Bye for now.
Bye.